Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this video in regards to some subconscious signs of mild or hidden depression. So I just want to talk a little bit about depression and what the subconscious mind is. So right now with coronavirus, because a lot of us are isolated, especially if you're in a state that is still shut down, a lot of people are feeling a little bit more depressed than normal, regardless of if they have a job or income or not. It's kind of like being an animal in a cage or maybe like a fish in an aquarium tank, that this feeling of being trapped has triggered a lot of people with loneliness or just this loss of freedom in general. In addition to seeing how the shifts and changes that have been happening have been triggering a lot of silent or mild depression. The other thing I want to state is that everyone throughout their life has gone through a phase or a stage or a season of depression. Now, there are some acute, mild symptoms or stages of depression, and other people have more severe. The more severe end does require a lot more therapy, probably a lot, they might have to use meds and things like that. But right now, a lot of people are experiencing some more mild cases of depression, which are things that we can bring to light through awareness and then understand how we can control a lot of those changes to help elevate our mood and kind of boost depressive mindsets or states. So some people will say, there's hidden signs. I like to use the word subconscious signs because we have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And when your actions, behaviors, or thoughts start to change, there is something happening within you, and depression triggers a lot of these changes. Everything roots back to tapping into the hormonal flow of the body. So a lot of times we reach out to certain substances or certain types of food to trigger the reward center of the brain. Most people, if you look at the root causes of a lot of things, it's loneliness. So for example, a very lonely person might reach out to sugar and ice cream or something like that to feel better about themselves. So they're using ice cream as the substance to void or fill a void that's in their life. So the void might be they're missing social connection and love. And so the ice cream and the sugar is filling that temporary high to make them feel loved and valued. And it's like that hedonic treadmill. You feel that high momentarily, and then it comes back down, and eventually it becomes a vicious cycle or an addiction because you want to keep feeling high and happy, so you're using that substance a little bit more to fill the reward center of your brain. So if you take away one thing from this video, everything is about the glandular system and the hormones that are flowing in your body. The hormones that flow through your body after a jog or a run or after sex, it's a different type of hormone as when you're feeling lethargic, depressed, and sad. So most people are trying to fill their body with the positive, quote unquote, kind of happy hormones. So briefly, what is the subconscious mind? So the subconscious mind is basically like a data bank for everything, which is the opposite of your conscious mind. So the subconscious mind stores your beliefs, your previous life experiences, it stores your memories, your skills. It's basically like a little piggy bank that you're keeping everything stored in that area of the mind. So it said, some interesting facts is that the subconscious mind is always alert and awake, so it's working while we're dreaming. So basically that part of your brain is never resting. Your habitual actions are stored here. It speaks, your subconscious mind speaks to you in your dreams. It's kind of that little voice that you're hearing in the back of your head a lot of times, like, I need to eat healthier. Like, that's a lot of your soul, your subconscious mind screaming at yourself. It's not the logical mind. The conscious mind is logical, so this is a little bit more the emotional feeling part of the mind. The subconscious mind is actually 1 million times more powerful than the conscious mind, and it controls about 95% of our lives. So knowing a little bit of this information, we can start to look at some subtle or subconscious signs that you might be experiencing depression. So tapping into that reward center of the brain, if you're noticing a change in your diet, like you're wanting that more comfort food or that sugary and processed food, a lot of times we reach out specifically to sugar or to that fried fast food, not because we're lazy and tired, sometimes yes it is, but because we are trying to fulfill our emotional state. Once again, that taps the reward center of the brain. Coca-Cola, that's why it's so addicting. There's been research that has shown that it taps into that part of the brain to trigger those happy hormones. The second sign is if you're starting to reach out to alcohol or starting to dabble into drugs. I've known some colleagues or some people lately who are very healthy individuals, and they're noticing that sorry, the ambulance in the background. So they're starting to notice that they're actually going home and having a drink. A lot of people have adopted the quarantini during this time. If you've looked at any of the statistics during coronavirus, alcohol sales have gone up. This obviously is really bad if you're an alcoholic or you live in a situation of domestic abuse where a lot of times people change their behavior when they drink alcohol and they become more abusive. So if you've noticed that your substance use has increased, you've increased your alcohol consumption or just started to go to the marijuana store, the marijuana shops have been booming in sales, that is a mild sign or a subconscious sign of some form of mild depression. Especially because we're isolated and being stuck indoors, you're losing this sense of freedom. So a lot of times alcohol and substances are used as a coping mechanism. If you're alone and, well, anyways, I'll get to the point. Pornography use. If you're using more pornography, which that's another thing that has increased the usage at this point in time, a lot of times, we are sexual beings and people need to relieve themselves. But even if you are in a relationship and you notice that you're reaching out to pornography more than actually reaching out to your partner for sexual intimacy, or if you're alone and you're just watching more pornography, you might be using pornography as a coping mechanism of some form of loneliness or mild depression. Once again, ejaculation and orgasms, that releases certain hormones and chemicals in the brain that make you feel really, really good. So a lot of times to reach those peaks of our sexual health, people reach out to pornography. Pornography is a very dangerous thing to get your brain addicted to because, one, it can be very addicting because you want to feel that high all the time. And pornography rewires your brain. So a lot of times what starts off as watching people having sex, sometimes you kind of go down the rabbit hole of needing kind of the harder or more violent type of sex, or just like the more weird out of the box of being normal type of things. So it is one of the quickest ways to reach your reward center through peaking of your sexual health. So I do recommend taking a notice at your usage and kind of analyzing why you're reaching out to that. Another sign of mild depression could be posting cries for help. I believe that Facebook a lot of times is used as a psychological tool. People are using that in many cries of help. Some of it is just to show how awesome their life is, or just to get help or recommendations. But a lot of times we're using it to vent our psychological state, to get validation from other people, to get need and comfort or help. So what are you posting? If it's a little bit more on the gloom, the doom and gloom side, what is your psychological subconscious mind trying to get during this time of reaching out? When you start to have no energy, that is another mild sign of depression. When you're feeling vibrant, whole, happy, and complete, you want to move. You want to feel, you feel alive. And when you feel depressed, you start to become lethargic. You don't have energy. You don't have energy to do anything. Some of it could just be exhaustion from working too much. If you're working in the medical system right now, you're probably exhausted. You don't really want to come home and cook and clean after, a 10 to 14-hour shift at the hospital. But if you're working at home, a sedentary lifestyle also breeds no energy. But a lot of times the mind and the body is linked so together that if you're not feeling good mentally, you tend to lose a lot of physical energy. So if you've noticed that a lot lately, it could just be from being more sedentary, from being isolated, but just give yourself a little bit of, self-analysis here to see when did the energy levels start to decrease, and why is it decreasing? Physical pain. So the mind and the body are very, very connected. When you start to experience physical pain in the body, a lot of times the subconscious emotional part of your body is trying to bring awareness. Some of this could just be from being seated too much right now. But a lot of times when people have a lot of money issues, they develop lower back pain. Now there's a whole kind of psychosomatic spiritual perspective on physical pain, that different parts of your pain are triggering different, kind of like your body is screaming out for help to you in your spiritual anatomy. So a lot of times upper back pain, a lot of people are suffering from emotional states of being burdened, or, they're carrying too much load in their life, which is giving them, it's like carrying a heavy book bag on their back, which is giving them upper back pain. There's a lot of these spiritual symbolisms that have a lot of truth to it, but it might not be true all the time. A lot of times people who have money problems or money issues, they develop a lot of low back pain because it's triggered to that lower chakra of stability. They're losing that sense of stability in their life, and your lumbar spine is a stable joint, so a lot of times you develop back pain. People who are very inflexible in life tend to develop a lot of knee pain. I worked with a lady once before who she actually ruptured both of her Achilles tendons. And during that time, she was going through divorce. She worked as a personal trainer, couldn't really experience, or she was just really worried about how could she support two sons, because working in fitness, especially depending on where you live, you don't make a ton of money. You live an average life. So the Achilles heel is, when you rupture that, it's almost like you have the energy to climb a mountain, but you have that Achilles heel is what they're saying. Or sorry, when you rupture your Achilles tendon, it's like having the Achilles heel. You don't have that endurance to climb up the mountain. So there was something that was kind of keeping her back on a mental level as well, from the physical experience of rupturing that tendon. Stomach issues. When your mind is not operating at its most optimal health, it does affect your whole constitution. The mind and the gut are linked through the enteric nervous system, the ENS. So your stomach cells, they say there's more there's more brain cells in your stomach than there are in your brain. So your mind and your gut are in constant communication. If you noticed that you're constantly stressed or anxious, or you think you might be depressed, you might develop gut issues, whether that would be more on the side of constipation or leaky gut or diarrhea. When things, if you're getting stomach pain, or just things, your gut flora is going to get off, let's put it that way, and then you're going to start to develop stomach issues, which is going to come out through the bowel movement of being on one end of the other. Either it's not coming out or it's coming out too much. Everyone's body responds a little bit differently to stress and depression. But if you have developed some stomach issues or just some alterations in your bowel movement, that is something that might be just a mild subconscious sign that something is going on up here that's affecting your digestive system down here. So those are some signs, subconscious signs of, developing some form of mild depression. So these things we can change through calming ourselves down, whether that's through yoga, meditation, adopting a healthier diet, drinking more water, moving a little bit more, whether that's in your home or taking a walk in your neighborhood. All of these things that we've always heard about, diet and exercise, these do have a massive effect on our health. A lot of people who I've worked with before, they don't enjoy the actual exercises that we're doing during personal training or during the group exercise class, but it's how they feel afterwards. They enjoy feeling better. They feel better throughout their workday when they move and do that exercise class at lunch. So